Hello and welcome to Wild Seat. A girl named Julie was in her car when, suddenly, she accidentally hit a powerful white-haired German Shepherd. Without hesitation, she took him to the vet and paid for everything needed for the dog's recovery. She then decided to take care of him while trying to find his owners, distributing flyers throughout the neighborhood. But wait, there's more. It turns out that behind that sweet face, the dog had some pretty intimidating training. He was trained to attack black people. Oh my. That afternoon, Julie decided to skip an offer because she was fully focused on her job. But hey, fate is quite playful and had a twist planned for her. So there she was, relaxing on her sofa watching a movie, when suddenly a guy enters her house. Julie, with all her might, tried to fend him off, and for a moment, it seemed she had succeeded, but the guy was persistent and caught her again. In a now or never moment, Julie bit the guy's hand and boy, did he scream. Of course, her dog didn't just stand by. In a flash, the dog attacked. Although the intruder managed to escape, the dog, with the courage of 1,000, jumped out the window after him because protecting his home and Julie was his top priority. Amidst all the chaos, Julie didn't just stand by, she got straight to the point and called the cops, who arrived in no time. They took the annoying guy away without a second thought, and one of the cops said to Julie, "Hey, you're lucky to have such a brave dog looking after you." The next morning, while Julie was on the phone with her boyfriend, she mentioned that she was going to keep the dog. But out of nowhere, Sass, the dog, started rummaging through her underwear. A small commotion ensued, during which, well, one of her panties suffered the consequences. But Julie, after laughing and getting angry, thought, after what he's done for me, how can I be mad? But the dog, with his adventurous spirit, saw a rabbit in the garden and boom, went after it. Julie, who is definitely not Usain Bolt, tried to catch him. But in the end, she just stands there, her hair a complete mess and covered in dirt, watching as her new buddy disappears from sight. Energized, Julie decides to go to a shelter, wondering if her dog might be there. But what she finds is heart-wrenching. A bunch of animals with sad faces waiting for someone to take them home, or else, well, it's better not to think about it. Meanwhile, on one of those lonely nights, a guy is calmly fiddling with his car when, bam, out of nowhere, the dog appears, and you won't believe it, he takes down the guy, and the car, now driverless, heads straight into a super chic clothing store. Cut to Julie, who receives a call that totally brings her down. She didn't get the part she really wanted in a movie. After the call, feeling down, she hangs up, but suddenly, what a fright, she hears a weird noise. At this, she, not to be outdone, grabs a pair of scissors just in case and, thinking, I won't be caught off guard, calls the cops. But surprise, the cause of the commotion is none other than her dog, who has again entered through a window. And even though Julie took a risk leaving the doors open, she goes and hugs him, not minding that he's covered in blood, and thinking, well, it's not that bad. She goes to give him a bath. The next day, having breakfast with her boyfriend, they talk about the role she failed to get, but the boyfriend, being clever, changes the subject and they start gossiping. But suddenly, Sass, the dog, gets up to his antics and gives her a good scare. Later, Julie goes to record something with a friend and thinks, hey, why don't I bring the dog? But when she sees her friend, who is dark-skinned, the dog freaks out and lunges to attack her. Julie, completely shocked, just stands there, mouth agape and speechless. After that, with the heat of the moment, Julie and her boyfriend have a good exchange of words. He, concerned, says, look, maybe we should think about giving the dog a long sleep so he doesn't cause more trouble. Julie couldn't get the images of those poor dogs in the shelters out of her head. Come on, who could? And now that she had her own dog, the idea of taking him there wasn't even an option. She was determined to find a solution for her pet. Although her boyfriend was convinced otherwise, the dog became super aggressive towards him. Luckily, in the end, he understood and supported her. So, with a kind of Rambo-like attitude, Julie decides to visit a guy who knows a lot about wild animals, an old man with plenty of experience who, by the way, has something against R2-D2. It seems he doesn't like how robots are stealing the spotlight from real animals in movies. Hopefully, Julie asks him if he can do anything with her dog, but the man, getting serious, tells her a shocking story about a dog that, after being calm for 8 years, one night decided to attack its owner. I mean, just when Julie was convinced that there was still hope, her dog goes after a guy working there. Fortunately, the expert, with all his skill, manages to control the situation, and that's when he drops the bomb on Julie. Her dog was trained to attack dark-skinned people. He tells her that these dogs were called white back in the 60s because they were trained for that nasty purpose and were used by the police back then. And just when we thought we'd seen it all, Kiss appears. This associate of the expert, he has a different vibe. You know, he stares straight into the dog's eyes and you can tell he wants to give it another chance. But watch out, on the condition that if things get ugly, he'll take care of it himself. Please, show me with a like and a comment that you liked the video and it will help me a lot. Thanks. The next day, Julie decides to visit her friend, the one who had been attacked by the dog, and fortunately, the girl decides not to go the legal route because she understands that it wasn't Julie's fault. Shoo, what a relief. Afterwards, Yuli goes to the place where they are trying to rehabilitate her dog, and, dude, it's a show. The dog and Kiss are in a kind of super intense body-to-body duel. After a while, both are exhausted on the ground, and Kiss's method is straight out of a movie, wearing down the dog until it feels like there's no point in attacking. Kiss tells Yuli that her dog is a real machine, very intelligent and strong, but our Yuli, with a giant heart, still believes her little dog would never hurt her. Kiss, seeing her so sure, decides to give her a scare. He tells her to leave the cage and just like that, takes the muzzle off the dog. My goodness, the dog, with tremendous fury, goes straight for Kiss, using a move that seems straight out of wrestling. After a little while, the dog calmed down. Kiss, with his gentle approach, showed his hand as if to say, "Bro, it's all good," and saw that the puppy didn't become aggressive. So, off they went back to the hill. Kiss starts chatting with Yuli and drops the gossip that when the dog was a puppy, some heartless guys hired someone with dark skin just to mistreat him. I mean, who thinks like that? So the poor little animal grew up with a trauma against dark-skinned people, thinking they were dangerous. And Kiss mentions something super interesting, that dogs see in black and white, not like people who discriminate based on skin color and stuff like that. In the evening, the dog, now in its cage, is trying to make a little hole in the roof, but Kiss, with his calm vibe, goes over, speaks softly to it, and offers a hamburger. Just when we thought everything was going smoothly, bam, a loud thunderclap, and the dog gets startled, almost biting Kiss. What a fright. The next day, Yuli, with all her good vibes, brings another hamburger for the dog, but Kiss tells her very seriously that only he should feed the animal. He wants the dog to trust him and overcome its trauma with dark-skinned people. And to finish, at night, the little dog is again making another hole in the roof of its cage. The dog gets loose, and you know, it causes quite a commotion because all the little animals were going crazy. Both Kiss and an older gentleman come out to see what's up, and the dog, with its superpowers, almost jumps over a 5-meter fence. Incredible. The old man suggests electrifying the enclosure to prevent escape, but the clever dog uses some containers that were around and, bam, manages to jump over. Yuli, always on the alert, follows the dog and finds it rummaging through trash. That's where things get intense because out of nowhere, a small child appears. Thank heavens, his mom arrives in time and takes him away, but not everyone was that lucky because a guy walking by encounters the dog and things don't look good. The guy runs into a church, but the dog catches up to him and really lets him have it. The poor guy's screams can be heard throughout the neighborhood. A bit later, Kai finds the dog with some reddish stains. Without hesitation, he tranquilizes the dog. Seeing the chaos in the church, Kiss realizes the seriousness of the situation and is deeply affected. Back at home, as Yuli and Kiss talk, Kiss reveals that it's not the first time the dog has attacked dark-skinned people. Yuli, horrified, suggests they should put the dog down, but Kiss, ever the thinker, says that's not the solution. He believes that getting rid of the dog means losing the chance to help a poor animal that was harmed by malicious people. No, this guy Quiz wasn't going to give up that easily. He tried to win the dog over with food, and the dog, playing hard to get, barked fiercely at him. But in the end, who can resist a good hamburger? The dog was won over. Now imagine they're all having dinner, talking about their progress, and suddenly, bam, a cop walks in. Everyone looks guilty, but the cop, more lost than ever, had the wrong house. And though the old man scolded them for messing around with the dog, in the end, they all burst into laughter. A few days pass, and Quiz, as a joke, shows his belly to the dog. And what do you think the dog does? At first, it gets angry, but then, with Quiz's magic touch, it becomes his #1 fan. I mean, listen, not long ago the dog tried to eat someone, and now it's like a stuffed animal with Quiz. The old man is amazed at what he sees and applauds Quiz for getting the dog to move past its racist tendencies. But beware, he says the issue isn't fully resolved yet. Now they need to see if the dog behaves the same with other dark-skinned people and not just with Quiz. So, for the final test, they call Charlie, and, not trusting the situation one bit, Quiz keeps a gun at the ready in case the dog acts up. Ready? If the mutt gets nasty, it's lead time. But if things stay calm, peace will continue. Turns out the dog didn't make a fuss with Charlie, and he takes a well-deserved drink, by the way, and tells the grandpa who was around that the dog has had a really dark past, no pun intended, and that it's a ticking time bomb. He suggests spending more time with the mutt to get the hang of it. Then, Yuli receives a call from Kiss, but on her way, she runs into an old man and his granddaughters who look like they've stepped out of a countryside movie. The grandpa gives Yuli a box of chocolates and tells her they've seen her ad and that the dog is theirs. Yuli, suspicious, asks the guy if he trained the dog, and the man, with an of course expression, says yes, and that he has more dogs trained just the same. Julie, getting super angry, throws the chocolates in his face, puts him in his place, and tells him that the dog is with a black guy. The grandpa gets furious, but Yuli, with full attitude, gives him a piece of her mind and leaves. Yuli meets up with Quiz, who releases the dog. The dog bolts towards him and Quiz, scared, pulls out his gun, but the dog, in a 180 turn, behaves well. Julie, super happy, runs to hug Quiz, but suddenly the dog lunges at her. What a fright! Quiz almost pulls out his gun again, but the dog just wanted to lick Julie. But the drama doesn't end there, because the dog sees the grandpa and attacks, remembering its former owner. And Quiz, who had calmed down and put away his gun, watches as the dog launches at the grandpa as if there's no tomorrow. Everything's a mess, and, unintentionally, Kiss has to shoot the dog. The pain in his eyes is truly heavy. Julie is devastated, and both are on the verge of collapse. Quickly, they stop the old man's dog and take it to the vet, hoping for a miracle. And with that drama, the story ends. But the adventure doesn't stop here. I'll see you in the next video summary. Let's go.